Yeah, I'm good.
3, 2, 1.
Okay. Well, this is going to be interesting, I guess.
Yeah.
I've got to locate our server. Where did you put the things?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So, we're doing podcasts because we realised that we remember nothing.
This is when we do like name intros.
What? My name? What, we do like an anime intro with like bright colours. This is how we start. No,
Yeah.
So what was it? We looked at experiences that we'd had. I think specifically in games yesterday.
Yeah, mostly in games. Mostly. Like, I think there are other things as well.
Did you write anything down?
I wrote a few, like, in the for example bits. I've got
Okay.
like, stuff.
But, we had some really interesting points about multiplayer. I think multiplayer is really cool for feeling lonely, or the lack of it, at least. That was kind of what I was looking at yesterday. Because I remember talking to Bernie and said, like, going on a Rust server on your own when there's been clearly evidence of people being there without you being there, and then there's just build everywhere and you're all alone. It's like the saddest thing. So yeah, that's the thing.
Your blank face tells us.
It's my don't like this at the moment face.
I know it's going to be like that, but it'll be fun.
We should probably start with the research because these are sort of our outcomes, and we had a triggering point which led us to make statements based off of Ella's loneliness research, and I think it was there was a constant reference in the book. I don't know what it's actually called. Well,
A Philosophy of Loneliness.
right.
By Lars Svensson.
Someone's been reading the book.
What a nerd!
I think we liked referencing the fact that people.
What?
No, Mike's freaking me out.
Just don't think about it. Just like it's just literally it's for you. It's not for anyone else.
Everyone was sort of interested in the same passage. Like
Yeah.
After scanning in all of the
this
pages that I thought were interesting, there was one passage talking about how effectively the worst punishment would be to be ignored by every single person you came into contact with.
I think it was more solitude, or having not had that person to speak to.
Yeah. I mean, it goes on to say that, but yeah. Would you like to summarise the passage instead? You've got it in front of you.
I mean, it's a long passage. Let me just get it.
I said summary.
Was it the one that was like starts with a perfect solitude?
It seems like
Okay.
it attempts to describe how, in the absence of when you are without a person to share with, whatever it may be, the feeling you get from not having a sort of observer there to react causes a sort of, it degrades the feeling to the point where it's even pleasure here describes it is not the same as the enjoyment is as good as it would be if you were to have shared it. It just isn't the same, and any kind of pain becomes worse.
Yeah.
Because I think it's like, it is the idea of solitary confinement, like when someone, in prison does the bad things and then they go, we're just going to shove you away from people for a while, and every thought you have, every experience you have will be completely alone.
But it's not even just alone, it's like it doesn't ever happen. Because I think we rely on each other to sort of gratify experiences.
Yeah.
And when we don't have that, like when when like I talk to people about stuff that they have no idea about or don't know, it's like that whole like, oh, I guess it's not really important then. Not because it wasn't important, but because nobody else experienced it.
Or even then you try to like explain it and why it's important. You
Yeah.
go, oh, it's a reference to this thing that happened, and then go to explain the exact like
But
events.
it's not the same
Yeah.
because they weren't there.
And it's like, oh,
this
but you
whole,
weren't
like-
there, but this is what happened. Oh, trust me, it was funny, and like feel the same way I did, you know.
I mean, sometimes people do connect on that, and then they like you can end up referencing something to someone, and you'll get them equally as interested,
Yeah.
and they'll want to go and see it as well. So
Mm.
it's not always like, oh, I can't feel that. Like you convey it, and then someone shares it as well, which is cool. It's not always so bad, where it's like, no, I don't understand because you're not I.
Yeah, that's true. Like, because I know, I think because like Richard hadn't watched what's it, JoJo Part 3, right?
Yeah.
He knew about stands because
Yeah.
it had been explained to him, and he went and looked it up because it was like this was a thing that like a shared
Interests
experience.
him, yeah.
But yeah,
It's almost like the shared experience puts the kind of the value in it because it was the thing that brought not only people together, but it was experienced by more than one person that made it real. So thus it became important because of that, more than the actual experience itself.
yeah,
Because we were talking yesterday about like how Minecraft's really cool, but when you play it on your own, it just feels super fucking lonely because like it's so massive that when you're not in an environment where you're sharing it with somebody else, it's like all the important things and all the things that you don't capture mean nothing.
yeah.
Because that shared experience is what makes it in the first place. That combined goal, that place, that adventure is not. There's no meat. Like, if you die, it doesn't matter because nobody was there to care.
I think you're right, because like in the text included in the same paragraph there, you're pretty much completely supported in even feeling that, because there's a thing here that says that it just says that the force behind any like feeling isn't really there if you haven't. I guess what you want to do is have someone have your thoughts. Otherwise, it just doesn't seem to have happened at all. Like, they like to be fancy and have some creative writing here about how if a man were to have the capacity to control a bunch of, like, outcomes, like, they would still be miserable until you give them a person, at least, who they can be like, I am happy about this, and I want you to know it. And there's also the fact that this person, it's not just sharing, it's also the fact that they need to consider them. The quote is, whose esteem and friendship he may enjoy. So that's the person you entrust with a thought, and then it becomes, I guess, more pleasurable, or even pleasurable at all. Like, that's the only way to really gratify, is that someone, has accepted that to be the case, and you, I guess, respect them.
I guess like when you watch a funny thing like on your own, how often do you laugh compared to how often you laugh when you're watching it with friends whose humour you understand and stuff, and then you kind
Rubs
of
off.
yeah, like you laugh together, and not only that, you also form new comedy out of it by finding specific things that might not have been intended to be funny. You find them funny just out of everyone else finding them funny because that's a funny experience in and of itself,
And I think we look
Really?
we look for gratification in others to kind of like almost value our experiences as such. Like we take value from how other people see them and how other people appreciate them. Like, my house is really cool in Minecraft, look how cool it is. Whereas if you showed it to no one, you've got no scale of, oh, it might be cool, but I don't know because nobody's ever looked at it, therefore it's shit. Because you need that kind of gratification is what it is.
Because I guess there are things that doesn't apply where like the value is intrinsic.
I agree.
Like when, because you wouldn't want someone like who's just gone up to like, I don't know, 2 homeless people on the street and given them each £1 and then gone to tell all their friends about how they just gave 2 homeless people £1. It's like the value was in doing the deed. It isn't in sharing the experience of doing it, you know.
But it's like how a lot of YouTubers use like giving to charity and doing good things
Yeah.
for people as a way to like add trajectory to their career.
Yeah.
To them, unless it's been videoed or unless it's been recorded and other people are experiencing and watching it, they don't care. They don't care about helping people.
I imagine they probably still care about helping people, but they care also about their job
More,
you know.
maybe.
I mean, there's an interesting... I feel like that, what you just said about the YouTubers not actually caring about people, yet they will donate in order to, I guess, get some sort of sympathy vote to whatever, but, like, boost whatever they want to be boosting.
Yeah.
There's... I can't find the writing here, but I remember it written somewhere that... I mean, they like to... Hold on, I feel like I could find it really quick. It's...
Is this part of the text that we're on? Or...
No. I'm looking at the moment for the text which referenced how you see the world through a different lens depending on how you feel. Like, I think they like to say that if you've... Oh, do you know where it is?
That is in that
Yeah.
text, and it's towards the end, right?
I mean, it's the same book, but it's a
Yeah.
different
Okay.
section of page, I think is what he meant.
Yeah.
It's this. It's talking about how emotions act as lenses.
Do you want to
through which we
point
see
it
the
out?
world.
I don't know where it is.
I mean, it's all of this basically, mostly.
Okay.
I mean, this sort of, I guess, no, you went too far down.
Sorry.
It's, I guess, this here. I don't know. It.
Is the whole thing with different worlds and stuff?
Yeah, it's effectively from a certain mood or emotion, you will see the world differently, and you will perceive other people's actions and
Yeah.
everything differently. And some things will be obscured to you, and other things will, of course, be more visible from a certain emotional perspective. But that doesn't make them all true. Is the basic gist of the passage.
Oh, I like that it says that it can be obscuring to feel anything whilst trying to understand something. It doesn't specifically say you will only understand it through your feeling. It says that by feeling something at all, it opens up the possibility of interpreting it through that way. But anyway, I was wanting to say that I'm pretty sure that if you take that into account, and this later goes on to say that at some point here that the feeling of love can only be
What, that isn't blinding?
Yeah, I mean, it's that. Yeah, it's that. It's not blinding. It just opens up, I guess, again the possibility of seeing it in that way. But because you see it in that way, it allows you to do things through. I don't want to keep saying the lens through through having a few more thoughts, a few more varied, diverse thoughts around anything you think at all. So when you think, I wouldn't say it would be malicious for some YouTubers to attempt to be trying to give charities money and then sharing it with someone as if it's any of their business what their money is doing if it doesn't even come in contact with their audience.
Yeah.
It could just be that once you feel enough generosity and love and you feel kindness because you are kind, it could maybe just become that it could just be that you maybe become a more generous person because you feel happy. And that could entirely change who you are by having experienced, that one thing.
You're saying that the skeptics in the audience are just salty. And so they just assume that,
Like,
they're being too nice.
No.
Nice can't
You
be
should be
real.
skeptical because of just because of the way because it can be manipulative. But I think that everything should be given the benefit of the doubt and investigated if you really think something to be the case. But there are some personalities which you can tell don't care. Like if PewDiePie were to give to a charity, I don't think everyone would be like, yeah, he doesn't care. His videos don't even get monetized. He's just lost money and he's not making that back. I mean, some videos anyway don't get monetized. But yeah, no one's going to question PewDiePie.
Yeah. But if Jake Paul would do it, he's clearly just doing it for a social impact, rather.
Didn't he? And he did do that actually after the suicide clip.
Really?
He donated to, I guess, some charity that
For suicide prevention.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Okay.
And he interviewed someone that had been obviously very unhappy, and to try and basically boost his cause and say look, this person agrees with me.
That's uncomfortable. I mean, donating to a charity, regardless of whether you're doing it
intentions or not, it's a good
At
action.
least it's still going to benefit someone, even if he was just
using it for his own gain.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a difficult one, but obviously it borderlines into the moral implications of an action like that, and obviously that's not really the point here. It's the point of
sometimes it's still hard to. I mean, I wouldn't say he didn't show any regret. He at least attempted to amend things. I don't think he learned much, but at least sometimes it's not quite obvious when you're being manipulated into believing something to actually not be the case when it was quite clear that it was. For example, when Rice... What? It's my phone.
What? You what?
No, I look at the phone's on silent.
That's it. Get out.
It's over.
A good example of when someone is not as smart as what's his name? Not Jake, the other one, Logan Paul, to
Yeah,
and another one.
When someone doesn't have a manager or someone to help them.
They do have managers though. They just I don't know whether they're just tied up in a basement.
And to be honest, it was fake because of the language he used in his apology video.
We can assume that there was at least a potential that it was not written by him.
It wasn't written by him. He doesn't use those words.
You can't say that specifically because you have no idea what he is like off camera, and you have no idea what would happen if he actually chose to choose his words carefully and write them down and plan them.
I think it's safe to say that the whole Paul is in a whole the whole branding is a persona. It's not them because it's very clear, because I think they tried streaming before or something like that, and streaming is very different to YouTube videos because there's no cuts. It's live streaming. What you do is very real, and I remember somebody analysing them and saying that they're the personas that they give out aren't the ones that stick up. That is clearly not who they really are. It's just who they're pretending to be. So
because that's the weird thing about vlogging and stuff like that, where it's are you actually sharing experiences or are you building a brand?
A facade,
for entertainment purposes, because it isn't really. Because if it's sharing experiences, then I'm sure, because there are people who do mundane, I went shopping and I bought this and
but
this.
generally speaking, they're not so successful.
Yeah,
I think.
Apart from the ones that blew up.
Exactly,
and
that's kind of where the issue lies, isn't it? And that's why people just end up putting personas on, because then they're more interesting in. Not really, but
get the kids in.
Get the kids in. That sounds so creepy. No, but I mean, you've seen how heavily they market towards kids.
Yeah, it's dumb. I'm pretty sure there's a person called... I would say I'm pretty sure. There's a YouTube channel called Nerd City, which looked up some guidelines for, I guess, broadcasting on TV, and it was because kids don't understand the difference before a certain age, before they know to be able to tell what the difference between what's real and what isn't. And so, because of this, children's TV guidelines, I think they have a certain percentage of how much you're able to advertise to them and in what ways, so as to not like take advantage of them because they are vulnerable, because they don't understand, and because pestering power is a thing. And I think Nerd says she just basically looked at those stats, compared them to the amount of time they were aired during specific moment of like in one like specific video, I mean, of Jake Paul's, and it was like well over like what was even like allowed on TV, but because it's YouTube, no one's going to take down or like that video or take even notice of it, because obviously there's no one to be sure that kids are safe. It's more he knows how to manipulate it into making it profitable, and I guess kids are easy to do that with.
I guess now there's the advertising friendly like thing that like they have to stick by in order to actually get full monetization for their videos, and that's often because they want to marketing companies want to be able to market to literally everyone, so it has to be, is this kid friendly? So they still have to worry about that stuff, but probably it isn't going through an edited, like, this is a broadcasting channel, a network, which will check to make sure all this stuff follows legal guidelines.
It's different. It's a lot more of a grey area.
Yeah.
Anyway, I feel like that was a bit of a tangent.
Yeah.
That's
feel
fine,
like,
though. Where would we start from?
I think you attempted to speak to me about your experience with Rust and just being alone amongst history of players that will likely not be turning up to that server.
Yeah.
But you came to it, I guess, sometime later, hoping to have a community, and the community is not even... There's not even a new community. There's nothing taking over. It's just you by yourself, and...
Yeah, I think there's like, because obviously Ella's looked in this a lot more than I have, but there's lots of different types of loneliness. There's like the idea of like synthetic loneliness, or the idea of loneliness being inserted into experience as the primary theme, or the absence of people, which creates this aura of almost loneliness where it's not meant to be. And that's kind of what was in this experience, because you go in feeling like it's a buzzing game or like a buzzing experience that you're going to have with lots of people, lots of interactions, and then it's a ghost town, and you're like, I don't know how
20,000 people usually live
it's
it.
true. COD 4 basically.
I mean, and you expect the buzzing because it was specifically meant to house players.
Yeah,
and
it's a game that's designed around that, and when there are none, and you've got all these builds and clearly all these thousands of hours that people have put into the game, and they've developed all these things I have absolutely no idea how to do because I've not played the game before. And I'm like, how do we even build a chair? But there's one over there.
Because we like kind of came to the conclusion that it was the expectation of players being there that made it like you feel that loss of the experience that you're meant to be having at that point. Like, so yeah, like MMO servers in dead MMOs are a thing.
Oh, man.
Like,
but it's like we were saying, it's like when you see, like, when you log on to like a platform and you see like you have friends that have been online for however long, and you're like, I may never speak to these people ever again.
It's like, have you been to a train station when like it's not rush hour and you're like,
where is everyone?
Where is everyone? You're just sat alone on the platform, even if you're not going to speak to anyone or interact with anyone meaningfully. It's still, you feel that disconnect because there's no one there,
even though when there should be.
Yeah.
But I think that like that's what I was saying about Minecraft servers. It's like, even when you can see that nobody's online, and even when you can see that like you're not going to have any interactions on that, it's kind of like that hope, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, you hope that there's going to be something there, and like you go on and you see everybody's houses and you see all those memories and experiences that you've had, and then it's just grey because there is none of that.
It's like how it feels to sit in an empty living room when it's like, this is where people watch TV. No one's here. This is like the area of the house where people get together. No one is here.
There's evidence of other people having used this space.
These chairs are meant for more than one person.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
That'd be cool as a like potential. I mean, it's sad, but I've thought before, like, if I ever... I used to feel pretty lonely. I used to feel like if I ever lived in a house by myself, I wouldn't get, like, a sofa where more than one person...
So you'd have a chair.
I guess it's like an arm,
Yeah.
sure, but like a sofa
of
of one. Because I feel like it'll be so weird. I used to feel like when I think about placing myself in a situation where I'm in a house, I don't want to see a second seat that's not going to get used, because that'd be uncomfortable. I thought, what would I do with that? I guess all I could think of, I guess I'd just remove the pillow from there and put it away somewhere so it didn't look like anyone was even capable of sitting there. And obviously then there's chairs, only one chair, one plate, one set of utensils. I think it'd be cool to play around with, like, I guess how far you could take that. I mean, all the ones are, like, pretty reasonable where it's reasonable, like, you don't need more than one plate, one pan, one whatever.
True, then you got to wash it up straight away, and that's a bother.
That's how I have to live. I've got one bowl and one plate.
God damn.
But
That's how I live.
yeah, but
Keep buying
it'd
more
be
bowls.
it'd be nice imagery, I think, to have an
That
obvious,
singularity, yeah.
like, the extent to which it's make it look like it's distressing by even removing things that remind you there are people. Like, no, I don't know, like the bathroom may be covered, like the bathroom like mirror covered, or just something that reminds you of a presence. Like, obviously the second seat.
It's true, but
Every
then
door closed or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's not. It does. There doesn't even have to be evidence of people being there. It's those experiences that make it. It's like you know when you go places with people, like you go to like a theme park or just a walk out somewhere, and like you share like a conversation or something, and then you go there again on your own, and you're like, this is the place where I had this conversation about this. It's like, there needs to be no visual prompt as such. Like, there doesn't need to be any evidence of them being there. It's just you knowing that something happened there where you shared something with somebody is enough to make you feel like you're on your own.
Well, I guess in that sense, the memory acts as the prompt, surely.
I think that's a part of it.
Sorry, you were going to say something.
No. Go on with this. It's cool.
It's a good one. It is a really good. It is a really good point.
Because then, I mean, from what it sounds like, there's always some form of prompt, even if, regardless of whether it's, you know, a memory or a visual thing that makes you go, there are supposed to be two things here, or there's supposed to be something else happening. Yeah, I think there needs to be something that highlights the fact that you are alone, because otherwise you have no contrast, and without contrast you know, I mean, if someone has been sitting in a room alone for their whole life, just being given food like through a hatch, like in the doorway or something, just imagine for a second,
what the
like
hell is this?
I just mean, would that person know what it is to be lonely? Would they feel lonely? Would they long for someone like them? I don't know.
According to this,
It's hard to say, because I don't think anyone would go through this sort of mental anguish. But
even
like,
if they did, which they do, but they wouldn't have. I mean, prisoners anyway, and like you said, isolation, whatever that's called. I'm pretty sure there's a bit in here which I think attempts to look at the difference between chimpanzees and
orangutans.
And it tries to say that some things, and by things I mean living things, which are social creatures, they will know to be in groups. So you may feel that you might not be able to place what it is you have. It is integrated into you to find a group to be with. And occasionally it says there's the one-offs where it's like if you're in a smaller group, you even alone, it's easier to hide. You also don't have to share, and you don't have to fight for like hierarchies. But there was a quote that George quite liked.
There was that really nice line, which was, God so created man in such a way that he is forced into fellowship with others of his own kind. Yeah. I assume that's the one you were talking about. But it's that idea that like we are forced to rely on one another in some regards, but it's like that we've been sent into a situation, although that it's not necessarily beneficial to us, because like, yes, now we're in a society where we don't get food for each other, and we don't have to rely on each other for warmth, and we don't have to rely on each other for that, but we now rely on each other for company and that social aspect. And although we've evolved from the stage of needing each other for the best survival, we still rely on each other and we still need each other. And that has not changed. It's like we're still forced into that, regardless of whether we want to or not.
Well, damn genetics.
It's true. Yeah.
Like from what you were saying, Bernie, about thinking about loneliness and like the furniture, how it would be. I had it because I was thinking about it the other day, and like because I was in an empty house, and like one of the things that struck me was the sound, because like the sound of an empty house is very different to the sound of a house where people are doing things quietly or silently without talking, because the only things you can hear are maybe because I'm in a semi-detached house, you know, you can hear movement happening beyond the walls that I'm confined inside, but I can't hear anything above me, anything around me, anything within proximity, apart from the house itself, the buzzing of the fridge, like the pipes going.
Yeah.
And like if I stay still, there's nothing but that. And I guess that kind of like oral landscape in itself is a lonely feeling, I guess. But yeah, that was it.
I wonder if it's in specifically the case where when you're by yourself in a house that you live in, which there are people usually, or were people usually.
Yeah.
I wonder if there's something more to it that's a bit more primal, only because when me and Ella had moved away from the house to give, like, for those reasons, we moved away from like the Winchester house for fixing house stuff.
Yeah.
Sid was also needed to find a place to leave the house on its own because it needed to not have people in it. And I think... No, actually, no, that's a lie. All that story was... forget it. It was summer. It was summer is what was actually happening. And me and Ella were not there. But Sid was there on his own. And Bob had also left for, like, something...
Traveling.
Wherever he does. And Sid eventually felt scared of being in the house. It was lonely, and he missed us, but he felt scared being in the house at night as well. And I'm just wondering...
Or that lack of security that comes from not other people, because that was a thing that was in the book as well.
But that's also a thing about, you know, the same noises that you were talking about, you know, the really faint things that sort of linger. You can hear them so much more loudly when you realise there's nothing else to drown it out at all.
Yeah.
And so those noises at night are the kinds of things that just make you uncomfortable.
I have
when
noticed
you're on your
that.
own, because you're on high alert, because you are alone, because we're not supposed to be on our own. And, you know...
Yeah, that's also happened to me. I've been in the house by myself, and sometimes it freaks me out when I think there's someone else in the house, but really it's just the walls on the other side.
Downstairs to check. Like I've been in bed, heard like donk, and I'm going, that could be a person. If that's a human, I'm in trouble. I'm going to have to leave the bed, check the whole house, check that everything's locked. You know.
I guess... no, never mind.
Okay.
I think it's maybe because we've evolved to the stage where one of the few primal things that we still get from other people is security.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that maybe becomes such a centre focus for us of we must become impacted because of security. Because if you're living on your own and somebody comes in and stabs you, you've got nobody to help you.
Yeah.
Unless you call for somebody. You need that aid from somebody, and in which case because we, as I say, we live in like a society where we don't need each other for food and we don't need each other for warmth. In that case, it's the case of the security becomes
strength
really
in
important.
numbers.
Exactly.
I don't think you're wrong. I think you're right in the most common cases, because when I feel scared, there's no one I think about. There's no one I hope is with me, and there's no one I would think to get.
Yeah.
The first thing I think
Okay.
is, I'm going to grab something which I can hurt something with, and like I feel no reliance on anyone to like be there with me. So I feel like I wonder what it is, I guess, that makes it so that some people have those like specific differences.
I'm not gonna make that. You're the alpha male.
I'm the alpha. Need nobody. I've got me and my Fortnite skills. That's all I need.
I've got 50 skins. Come on.
I've got 3 Fortnite wins all on my own. Give me a gold scar and I'll fuck you up. Right.
But
It's more sort of not feeling like you rely on people for security, but
so at the moment, what's happened here is we figured out that security is not the same as loneliness. It just can tie to it.
yeah. I
pretty
mean, we
easily.
know it just ties if. It's what, like we said, it's one of the few primal things
Yeah.
that's probably left that is definitely, you need security
yeah.
to stay alive. I guess.
Because like
We still have unexpected threats like we did have.
yeah,
when
that's
we had
that's what I
Solitude.
feel. I feel a threat, and I actually I don't feel afraid. I feel like there is something threatening.
But how often do you have a random person breaking into your house, with a baseball bat, who's going to hit you over the head
Every
and
Monday.
try and kill you?
We've had the random guy who's broken into your house.
Okay, but that was because people left the door unlocked and he just wanted to collect a package. It was harmless.
I'm sure he wasn't going to
Wasn't
hit
he
you with that at all.
upstairs? I'm pretty.
No, he was just walking around downstairs.
Like a
I
sim.
wasn't okay.
Pathing error.
I wasn't here for this.
Plate on
All I
the
know
floor.
is what Sid and Bernie told me. But yeah,
Okay.
no.
Wait,
I'll
what's
admit,
happening?
The thing
Oh, sorry, I
about-
was
This guy went
thinking.
into your house.
the guy who walked into our house.
Oh yeah, that guy
hacking.
was fucking weird. Should I tell it? Should I just say what happened? Because like,
I mean, I basically explained. He just came in looking.
Sorry.
He had a parcel for, I don't know, someone
His
in his
daughter.
family, his daughter, and apparently it had been delivered to our house. And when he knocked on the door, I guess no one had answered because it was in the morning and people were asleep. And so he just opened the door and went in because no one locks the door.
That's such
pretty
I mean,
rational
we do
decision.
now,
Yeah.
but like
Such a
at the
weird thing.
time, people just
and I don't
didn't.
know why he opened the door, but he did so.
And decided to go
and I'm
in.
not sure why someone is able to open the door and not continue searching as well. Because what other purpose? But like after opening it, I guess he just wanted to get our attention because he stepped inside and then started calling up as is anyone in there. And I don't know if that was like a test for can I rob this place right now?
Oh.
It's like a good test.
I don't think it was.
'Cause, like,
he
I-
just came for a pack. People aren't generally just malicious.
I didn't
Still
say they
has
were
to be
He
malicious.
did go into your house though,
I
which
know,
was a
but
very
he
irrational
was-
decision.
And like
From what you said, he sounded like he was an old man.
So maybe he's seen.
he was, I wouldn't say he was old. I would say
It
maybe.
opens. Hello, is anyone there? Where am I?
I'd say he was
Where am
about.
I?
I'd say he was about 50. I wouldn't say he
Oh,
was
okay.
old,
Oh.
but he was just there in his slippers and his robe.
Oh,
And
if he's in, yeah, he's not going to rob the
He's
place in
harmless,
slippers.
he's not.
Maybe he would. That's the last person.
Yeah,
you'd
it's
expect,
true.
Isn't it?
but like, yeah, no. I was just speaking to him from the top of the stairs because I didn't want to get close to this strange man in the house, and eventually, like, because it was morning, I was tired, and I was like, oh yeah, because I knew what he was talking about, but I was trying to figure out from the top of the stairs, how do I get into Ella's room, because I know she has a knife. It's like a tiny, like,
Letter opener, I
Yeah.
assume.
No,
Yeah.
it's
It's a
Oh
Bowie.
yeah, you said you got a
Swiss
Swiss
Army
Army. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
I was trying to figure
Shit
that.
katana.
I was,
katana, mine. No.
While you were performing premarital sex, I mastered the blockchain.
It's hand painted too.
But yeah, no, just that happened, and I couldn't figure out how to make it, convincing that I'm not going to collect weapons quickly. So
Put them in your inventory.
I just sort of walked downstairs towards him, keeping, I guess, always facing him, waiting to be grabbed or something. But like
You were ready to
the,
wrestle that
the
old man
entire
to the ground
time,
if you
I am
wanted.
thinking this man is going to die here, or I'm going to have to like seriously hurt them.
I think we've
Because-
got off topic a little bit.
Just a little bit.
No, it's an example for like the what you feel when you are alone.
This old man has to die here.
First, I just had the image of like Bernie doing.
Just crab walking along the wall and
Maybe we
staring, not blinking.
But yeah,
Maybe we should start acting out all of our scenes. You know.
This is
yeah,
true.
like
Yeah, we should
Get
be
a
filming
camera.
this.
basically being aware of him was more important than getting his package, is what I mean.
If you know what I mean.
Okay.
Anyway, that's what being alone does, because like Sid's gone to bed at whatever AM, and he's not gonna wake up. So I am 100% alone, because he's not gonna wake up. Because like he slept through fire alarms and he slept through loads of noise, and he just doesn't wake. So it was just me and this guy in the house, and then he got his package and he was like, "Thanks," and I was like, "Alright, bitch."
How's it feel?
Fuck's sake.
But
I
anyway,
feel like there have been times when you've just picked up a pair of scissors and gone to the door, and I've been confused, and I've been like, what just happened? And you're like,
there's a knock on the door.
it's like there's a knock on the door. People don't come to this house. Like, yeah, they do.
They certainly don't leave either.
Just open, just like that. What are you doing?
Opens the letterbox.
Put scissors through letter.
Are you within stabby distance?
Go on, shoot, go.
Anyway, anyway, we should probably mention specifically where our statements came from in the research. So I had mentioned the people being social creatures, and why did we say that? I can't remember.
What?
We had said that people were social creatures, and so they have no choice.
Yes.
Oh yeah. Yeah, well, there was that like cool quote about God making man in such that way, but more.
That's a really nice Kit Kat. Leave me alone.
She's trying to like do it.
But yeah, after in like we should probably start saying the pages and specifically referencing the specific sentences.
This is just for ideas, because we know exactly what we're talking about,
This is
and
for
we've
us
got.
more than anyone.
I know, but we need to prove that what we're saying is legitimate.
We have
Well,
a PDF.
Yeah, we've got.
I
the
guess
PDF.
so.
I
Okay.
mean, I'm presenting my stuff within my research notes anyway.
I mean,
that's
but-
just going to be there, and I'm
but sometimes
gonna
we
notes
have-
on it anyway.
Sure. Well, sometimes we have a thing we've said, and it's like, is that still in context with the research, or like a
I mean, our
follow-up
tangent's
statement to some other idea?
I don't think you stabbing someone with a pair of scissors is, but
Just stick in a pair of scissors in a sketchbook.
It's a good
Scissors
example
are the ultimate
to
weapon.
illustrate being alone, and then there is something there. But then obviously we've also illustrated I don't care who's knocking on the door.
Actually, the only time I ever felt like I needed to defend myself, I'm pretty sure I picked up a pair of scissors. So, scissors are the ultimate in defense. They're
Yeah,
the
man.
thing that you get when you're not able to find a knife.
They're not
I
one,
feel like
but
I
they're
should
two
ask, but I
knives.
also feel like I shouldn't.
It was just a situation at Erasmus. I'll explain later.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I mean, scissors are two knives. It's more
It's
dangerous
true.
than one
You
knife.
It's
can
true.
two people at one
stabby,
time.
stabby.
Yeah, you open them at just
That-
the right angle.
But there's like an echo to the
Pierce
stab.
both lungs.
Come at me at 90-degree angles, I dare you.
Oh no, you can get both of their eyes.
And then just do it. And I go,
Oh my god, no! I don't like
Oh,
it.
that'd be so scary. It locks up around like their eye bones.
Okay, let's start.
Anyway.
Let's get back to the topic.
eye bones.
I mean, the inside sockets. The sockets.
Ah!
It
They're
basically
pretty
just
useful.
clamps on the sockets anyway.
Okay.
Inside sockets.
With that thought.
So, I mean, I can reiterate one of George's experiences with one of mine, where there was the Rust thing, about seeing everything where someone was meant to be or had once been, and I was just, I've also been through a sort of similar thing where I had bought Worms on Steam because good game to me. Yeah, it's a good game to me anyway. And I just and when I tried to play it online, you guys okay?
Yeah.
It's a weird noise.
I was going to play games, obviously, with it, because I did want to play games.
Yep.
And I just sat there with watching, like, three other, like, empty slots for when someone's gamer, like, I guess, username would be. And it was really strange to have had not been alone, but to have been waiting in silence for like 20 minutes and then making sure that the game was okay by like leaving and then going back and then going into another lobby and waiting again. There was something strange about waiting for someone else because there should be someone else, or maybe, I mean, obviously it's clearly a dead community, but I didn't know that, and so it was just weird to have to eventually decide that no one was going to play with me. But I was looking for the social element of, I want someone equally as, I guess, mentally capable as a human that's not the computer as myself, because I don't want to play against the computer, to perform like ridiculous acts of stupidity in games and like be smart about like turn-based whatever.
Oh.
And sorry,
go on. Sorry.
It was just it was weird to have had a purpose for what I wanted to do, and then to have closed it down sometime later, and just the silence was different to before, when the silence was filled with my thoughts, because it's just me idly in suspense, eventually suspense anyway, of whether something was going to happen.
I guess, like, because in a very similar sense, I, like, had a super lonely feeling just because, like, a handful of years ago, when Battlefield 3 came out, after each evening at school, in secondary school, we'd go and play Battlefield 3 together online, like, chat, have a laugh, you know. And, yeah, like, I got it for free in a Humble Bundle on PC after that. And then maybe a couple of years after I got that for free, I tried going onto the server browser and saw that all of them except like 2 were empty completely. And it was just seeing that and going, yeah, this was a thing that we once did. It's a thing that we don't do anymore. It's a thing that no one else wants to do anymore. And I'm alone in wanting to do it right now. And I had that kind of, I guess, complete disconnect from other people, whereas like this isn't a thing that happens anymore. And that kind of hit me a little bit, but like only momentarily, and I was like, I guess I'll play something else, but you know.
It's like I used to do Halo Firefight with a friend, and we used to play like religiously. Like, he'd come around like once a week and we'd play, and we'd do this for about a year or two. Like, we just play Reach like all the time.
Yeah.
Like, we had like thousands of hours on it. And like, I can never go back and play that now without him, because it feels wrong. Because once you build that experience and that harmony in which you are so used to doing something a certain way and getting some sort of thing out of it, if that paradigm shifts to like almost the heart and soul no longer existing, it feels like it's something that you don't want to do anymore. So.
Yeah. Well, I get that with a lot of multiplayer games, full stop, that if it's not with friends, then it's not like worth doing at all. Even though the game itself is fundamentally good, I'll be like, don't care. That's not the experience I come here for.
It makes you more sad than happy, and you've got that kind of trade-off of like,
and then
this
even
is making me enjoy the experience.
Even when a game isn't good, when it's like fine or whatever, I'm like, you know, this isn't even my thing. I'll still do it for other people.
Yeah.
But it's because that is what we do, and that's how I have fun. But yeah.
I feel like that's thing that's pretty common to realize the social aspect will draw you in.
Yeah.
And so, like, for example, I don't like Destiny, but I would buy it to play with other people.
Because it's free. Or...
Oh, is it free? Oh, the second one.
The second one is, yeah.
It's like GTA. I hate GTA with passion, but I really enjoy doing it with friends in closed lobbies where we can just like faff around, and just like do races or whatever. Because it's kind of like the enjoyment I get isn't out of the game itself; it's out of the experience which you can have on the game with other people.
Yeah, it's sorry, go on.
Oh no, I was just going to back up something. A part of the conversation me and George were having yesterday was how it was that George enjoys single-player experiences along with someone else to share what is happening in a multiplayer experience.
Absolutely.
And I feel like that might be an important thing to take into account, because I don't like that.
You don't like that?
No, I hate that. I don't like single player. I don't mind it. I want to have experienced it first, and then based off of how much I like it, I will choose to share it with other people or not. Like, I mostly, if I'm playing for the first time, a game, like, decision-based game, I want to think about it for myself, and I'm going to take the world. I don't want the real world to interrupt my sense of, I guess, engrossment in the world. I want to actually feel like it's actually happening to me and I'm actually in it.
So you say this is a decision-based game. Like, you mean as in you make wide plot decisions, like this affects the plot in this way, unlike like this bit of moment-to-moment gameplay, I'm affecting what I'm,
It's
doing.
not just that. It's like, I would have not found The Last of Us to be the same had it been with other people, because I feel like with other people, I'm thinking that they're there as well, and I'm sharing what's happening because it is being shared. So I'll be thinking, what would we have done? What would you have done? What would I? How would we do this together if we found ourselves in this moment? And I don't want to... But I'm interested in the story, and I don't want to be thinking hypothetically, because I want the focused story constantly. I don't want to be interrupted with real life.
You wanted to say something there?
Yeah, no, I was just going to say that, I mean, that's got to be something to do with the fact that it's a very narrative-heavy game.
Yeah.
And so you don't need other narratives, because, I mean, that's basically what you're doing with other people joining you when you play. You are making your own stories and your own ideas of what this experience is. You're turning an experience into your own sort of narrative by talking to each other and enjoying that experience. And so you don't need that with a game like The Last of Us, because it's so narrative heavy to begin with. You want to focus on those characters and what they're trying to tell you, rather than it being diluted by other people putting their stuff in there.
Yeah, whereas Breath of the Wild, we've got Mass Killer Ella is a narrative that is a thing.
No, I think there's an interesting point, which is like enjoying your experiences separately and enjoying your solo experience and knowing that is not diluted in any way, shape or form by other players, but also going away and, like, if I were to play Fallout 4 on my own and not speak to Dean, and Dean was to do exactly the same, and we could have a conversation at the end saying, like, oh, I made this decision, and he'd go, well, I like this because this is kind of cool, or I want to go here.
I had it with The Witcher 2 when I was discussing decisions made in that, because there are some, there are some decisions that actually you have to think about in that game, and I had it with a friend of mine from secondary school, and he completely recontextualised a whole part of the plot just from having a single conversation after I finished it of going, what did you do? And he went, well, why did you do that? Like, this happens here. This is a rule that you've already set yourself. You've gone against that rule by doing this. And I was like, oh yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. Like, I'm a terrible person. But even if it's not that, like, afterwards discussion, I went through Metal Gear Solid 1, 2, 3, and 4 like with friends in my bedroom with Diddy Donuts, and we had a laugh, and it was like those are some fantastic memories, and that is something that I wouldn't have got by just playing Metal Gear Solid on my own. Even though those games are great, it was the like when you get together and watch a film, you know, that makes, for me at least, that makes the activity a million times. But I don't go and say I'm going to sit down and watch a film on my own. I don't do that. I go, if people are watching a film, I want to do it with people, because that experience makes it like feel important to me.
And it's unique as well, because you can watch a film on your own and you could experience the same feelings in the morning as you could in the afternoon. But if you're around with other people, that will only happen once because of the variables.
But like, there was a time when Metal Gear Solid 4, there was like a gecko Metal Gear that like did a roundhouse kick, kicked Snake, he went flying and landed in a cutscene, so that it looked like he was running away, and we burst out laughing. Like, and that is something. If I saw that on my own, it would have been like, that's funny. If like that became a thing because we were all together, and it was like, how ridiculous is this? That even like the act that my friend John fell asleep during the final cutscene of Metal Gear Solid 2 where they had the plot dump, and like we were listening to this exposition going, oh my god, and we turned to our left and John's just like asleep on a chair and we're like but yeah, like, you know, you don't get that kind of experience when you're just sitting down going, you can still pay attention to the narrative. In fact, the narrative was made a million times better in Metal Gear Solid 1. There's a plot twist that happens, and one of my friends was feeding me like, oh, why didn't you do this now? And it was like, and then by the time he made it so that the plot twist hit me in the face, because he knew what was going to happen, and he could just kind of make me believe a certain thing so that I could then be fooled. And it was like, that wouldn't have happened if I played on my own.
See, there you go. It's, even though, I guess you could just say that even if it's narrative heavy, you can still enjoy it. But I think it's a very different experience. It's generally more fun and it's less serious, I suppose.
Yeah.
So that probably works quite well with some games.
Like Metal Gear Solid.
Oh, isn't
It
it?
entirely depends on the experience that you're looking to have.
It's very true, because something like Bernie was saying, The Last of Us, it's quite a serious game.
Yeah.
It does sort of, you know, it pushes you to empathise with the characters. It wants you to understand that this is quite a grim world. And, you know, that works well if, I guess, you're not laughing about the fact that this glitch has just happened. And you know...
I mean, that pulls me away from the moment anyway. It's not just people pointing things out.
You can be taken away from the moment, but then you can be like, okay... Or you can be taken away from the moment for a massive amount of time because you and your friend are sitting there joking about it and laughing about it, going, oh my god, what the fuck.
Like, I feel like that could be, like, gotten... Yeah, that I guess some games you make that sort of moment a bit stricter by, like, having non-skippable... cutscenes in which you can pause, because The Last of Us you can just pause at any point you want, and then it's like replay movie, and
that's
if it's going to play once ever and there's no time, then...
So you just said the word that, like, The Last of Us, a lot of it can be experienced like a film. It's a very linear thing. This is how the thing is meant to be done. The gameplay scenarios are cool, they feel dynamic, but there's still very fixed scenarios that make you want to feel something.
It's a linear story.
Yeah, like, there's a bit where there's a sniper that's shooting at you, and you can absolutely get to a point in which you can shoot him in the side of the head, but he doesn't exist there because he's behind the thing, because it wants you to get into the building behind him, you know. I chose to play Last of Us alone, because I was like, this is a serious thing, you know, and not only that, there weren't people around to play it with, but... When I first tried to play it, I tried having my dad sit on the chair and watch. He fell asleep, which is like, screw you then, I guess I'll just play it
Even after the daughter died?
Yeah, he saw that, and he found it like super touching, but I think he had something to drink or something. He was like, alright, he's still asleep, But yeah, you know, like, even when we were watching Bridge to Terabithia... like, we were, the first 3/4 of that film, we were joking the entire time. As soon as a certain event happens, it was like, it was like, silence for most of it,
Yeah.
and I turn around and you're drying your eyes, and I was like, this, like, you can't just sit there taking, like, piss when it's a serious thing.
Yeah.
Because you're sharing in how serious it is. I feel like that's a thing. You're both there feeling emotional. Like when you watch Gladiator or something together, and you're silent at that bit, and you're like, oh, okay, like this is an emotional scene.
Because it's isolating in the sense of it's how you interpret the experience.
Yeah, because when people interpret it in the same way, it brings you together.
Yeah,
that's the thing. And like when you watch horror films together, if people like get scared at the same bit, like they're gonna have a connection there.
Yeah.
But like if they don't, you might. Because there were bits during, what's it, Blair Witch, you jumped out of your skin, Ella, and I was sat there, I was like... and there's a disconnect, and you feel like you're supposed to be scared, and you don't feel the fear, and you're like, I'm wrong here. And having some kind of connection, I guess, to do a thing together.
Wrong.
Yeah, but you hated that movie with a passion.
Yeah.
We're not going to do the top 10
I
bad
don't know what the
things about
correct
Blair
way
Witch.
to feel is what I mean. Like,
Yeah,
I don't know how to judge whether you've now
But sometimes it
done
feels like
social...
you're missing something in
Yeah,
the experience
that's
if
the thing,
someone
yeah.
else seems to be reacting more than you. You sort of feel like, oh, I guess I'm just numb to this.
Yeah.
Damn.
That's because I had that exact thought when I was watching. I was like, I guess I'm numb to jump scares and I can't do it. Even though I don't watch horror films, I can't be numb to them. I guess I'm just emotionally numb in general. And it's like...
Guess I'm a bad person.
yeah.
See, I've watched plenty of horror films, and most of the time they don't really make me jump that much. Like, the occasional jump scare will get me. And I was surprised at how much I reacted to the Blair Witch. Because, quite frankly, I'm going to blame it on both the dark classroom and...
The hand on the shoulder.
the combination of the dark classroom, the loud sound for the jump scares, because that gets me. Sound gets me easy. In the same way that really sad music gets to me. Before any of the words happen, before any sad stuff actually happens, the music will trigger me. But, yeah, no, I don't know. It was weird. I wasn't expecting to have such a reaction. And then I felt like an idiot.
No, it was hilarious.
So, I being alone in my surprise and my made me think... no.
I think Josh also had like a
I think you might be right. Actually.
or like at least one of them at least.
How do you feel when we watch stuff together? Because we watch a lot of stuff together, and I feel like I hate everything.
You feel?
Yeah, it's quite
There's
disappointing
not
when
enough
it's something that I quite like, and then you're just like, it's alright. Or then, no, it was like Fargo. Trying to show you Fargo, and you're like, that's dumb. I'm like, you are wrong, sir. That is not dumb. That is human beings interacting. And you're like, that's not how people act. And I'm like, what do you know, you damn robot?
It's got personal.
Sorry.
Alright.
You even like left the room when we were watching Fargo as well.
Yeah, that genuinely made me sad.
We were waiting for you to come back, and then you didn't come back. It was like,
I mean,
You
it's
just gave
not
up.
great. It wasn't. I don't know what it was. Didn't like it. I mean, I don't remember what
I know
it was.
what
I
it
had
was.
several reasons to dislike.
yeah.
Oh well. But yeah, no. That... Yeah. Obviously, if I show you something and you're not...
Was that?
You're like just going, that was shit, then yeah, I feel a bit like, oh, okay. I guess it's just me then. I feel alone in my experience. And it's all
Does
your
that make
fault.
your experience have been? Because usually when we share stuff, it's probably not something new to the both of us. Usually, it's something we're sharing with each other.
Yeah,
with both,
which is what
with either of
makes
us.
it even more of a pointless experience. Because then it's like, I specifically
Really?
chose to show this to you because I hoped that you would like it.
And
Did
you
you not
didn't.
like it?
Yeah.
Damn.
That's
Yeah,
Yes,
that's-
it's just
There's
me.
an inherent disappointment there when like
Yeah.
you're sharing something for the reason of this person's gonna like it. Like
Yeah.
you're doubly let
Yeah,
down by the
exactly.
fact that you like it and they don't.
Exactly.
It's
yeah.
But I think there's also sorry, you continue.
No,
Mine's a
I
bit
just
of a
had a few things to like say. That's interesting that an experience you liked has not only made you feel alone, but it's made it so that the experience was less. Like, you don't have as much value in it just because I didn't enjoy it in the same way. I didn't realize you could ruin your already existing thoughts.
It's more that I still like whatever I showed you, but now I feel like I've got this constant thing of, that was kind of a waste of time, because the whole point of that was I wanted to share this with you.
I know what you mean.
And you threw it back and said it was shit.
I usually have criticisms.
That you should wear a shirt that says that. I have criticism. No, speaking of that, that's perfect, because I was trying to segue into that. Have you ever read a thing, and then watched a review for it, and then they've pointed out things you didn't think of, and then suddenly the thing means less to you?
Yeah.
Because you've gone, I didn't think of that. Damn it, yeah, that is a thing. Like that. And that kind of, like, it's a crush of your feelings, because suddenly they've been contextualized in the world that other opinions exist, and those other opinions somehow make yours.
Oh,
yeah.
You're talking about opinions. I thought
reviews are opinions. There's no objective review. There's no such thing as an objective.
I didn't realise you weren't.
But someone's logic might be better than yours, and you may be able to realise that.
Yeah.
For example, I mean, or
yeah,
you know,
someone might have access to more facts than you do.
Yeah, that's another thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. Like, I've attempted to share Life is Strange with you, because it's like my favorite.
All of our sharing experiences, where each one's gone this
well.
bad.
Yeah, but like,
you guys have similar tastes.
Anyway, it was my favourite game. And then you play it. What's happening? I'm just
Sorry, no, I just know how much Ella's like this. Don't like it. Don't like this bit, don't like this bit.
No, I don't.
Are you in the background hating it?
No, I don't hate it.
With a little hater sign.
I really don't dislike it that much. It's annoying. Chloe's annoying.
Okay.
Sorry.
Stupid
Anyway.
gun.
And so I don't want to do anything.
Well, no, I'm just sharing the fact that I'm just illustrating further the point with like a real example where I have attempted to share with you one of my favourite games that has done a lot for me as well. And you've pointed things out in it that have ruined my certain views of mine of it by pointing out flaws and things that aren't quite correct.
Sorry.
And because you've not just
I'm genuinely sorry.
Shut up. And not just because of like factual things, just your overall enjoyment in it has also affected how stop feeling bad. I can see it. It's like it's just an idea.
Stop.
And it's just it's still as valuable, but now I enjoy it more passively now. Like I before I used to like think about it, like and know like want to, and I just in general think about it. And now it's like there's no point in thinking of something that's flawed over there, because that would collateral all over. Now I just have to sort of take the game as it comes instead of thinking of the game as a whole, because as a whole it's not as perfect as I thought, but in parts it's great, and so for me, and so yeah, I enjoy it, but you have like made the experience a bit less.
That being said, like there's the opposite thing of
I think I know what you're about to say. What I was about to say.
No. It might not be, because there's also the thing of I like this cool dumb thing, and I know people don't necessarily agree that cool and dumb is a thing. I like the fact that I can make dumb things, of pointing out dumb things and going, that's cool and dumb and I like it, and you're wrong to not like it. Like I like
Devil May Cry.
cough cough Devil May Cry, cough Bayonetta, cough like Metal Gear, cough anything. But like, you know, like if I can go Devil May Cry is great because of this cool dumb thing, and you go that sucks, and I can go no, it's great, shut up.
You can't
like,
split a motorbike in half.
the fact that there is a conflict there, the conflict itself is funny. And, like, you know, there's... I guess that, in and of itself, is an important thing. It doesn't, like, go against my beliefs. It compounds them and makes me stronger.
But also, you have the concept of, like, if you like something or you think something's really cool, and you're like brave enough to the point where you're like, I'm gonna venture out and tell people about this really cool thing. And, like, for example, when I started playing Dark Souls, I was like, this is really cool. This is a really cool game. Like, this is the coolest thing I've ever played. And I'm like, look how cool this is. And if somebody else goes, you know what, that's actually as cool as you said it is. The level of value and coolness that I place in that thing, like, skyrockets. Because I'm like, this is so cool that you like it too.
You have 5 points in strength.
It does. It just keeps it exponentially goes higher. But it's the point of, like, that those shared, like, revelations of this is important to me, and is you've also found the same thing. Thus, combined, we find a value that's greater than the one we had originally. Because we're kind of cemented in our beliefs. Because I'm not the only one that thinks like this, and I finally have another soul that I can discuss and talk to this about that values it equally. So
why did you use specifically the? I feel like, why did you say specifically that if you're brave enough to go and, like, you know, share your thought? Because I feel like I understand it. Because, like, if I'm going... Because I don't like to share the things I like unless I like the person as well. Because to me,
there's something about that.
Because, like, I don't want to go and tell, like, a stranger about my level of... It's because I have a special respect and, like, enjoyment, and, like, it feels special to me to have something I guess I think is, well, exactly the same special to me. And so I want to make sure no other opinion can, like, I guess, change it. Or, like, I don't want it to be associated with anything I don't like. And so when I'm thinking of sharing something, I'm thinking, will this person see it as well, as clearly as I have? Because, like, I can use the same example, Life is Strange. I trusted Ella with, like, my feelings and thoughts, and they weren't reciprocated, and that's fine because she had good reasons. But, like,
I think
why'd you say courage too? Because that's the reason, like,
I think you cultivate feeling for something when you experience it. I think games are specific in this regard, that you have, like, you have, like, I don't know, you cultivate something special when you experience something, and it's different to anything else that you've had before. And it takes something to be able to wrap that into an experience that you comprehend and understand, and give that to somebody else, and then knowing that there's a possibility that they can simply say, no, it's shit. And knowing that you're probably going to feel really bad because of it, because that's something important to you. And it's easy for somebody to discard something and say, like, no, this isn't for me, and I don't want to experience that.
Yeah, because I think, like, it goes hand in hand with the thing of we don't treat everyone the same way. Like, we treat certain friends the certain way. We have certain references that we like. Like, I'll talk to my other friend group with a bunch of references that we came up with since we, like, most of us met in year 7. Like, some in, like, playgroup, and, you know, like, you've got that kind of relationship that's built over a certain amount of time on a certain amount of principles and things, and, like, if you learn to understand different people in different ways, you know what they like, what they don't like, and if you know they're not going to like a thing, you know, or if you, like, they might like this, but I'm not quite sure, like, you do need a kind of courage to go, you know what, I'm going to try and recommend them this, and see how they feel about it.
And sometimes you get the best thing, which is, like, you're like, I really like JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. They go, it's
No,
the coolest thing
the
ever.
best thing is you see another person doing a JoJo pose, and
And
you're like, was that a
"It's the guy!
JoJo pose?
That's the one! We could be friends. No other word needs to be. No, because it's there is something special about that. There's something like you like without sharing an experience, you experience something the same way, and that makes something that you thought might be a lonely experience something that you realise isn't, because you're not the only one that experienced it like that. And that's something really special. That's something that speaks across time and space almost. Because like you have generational things, like people in the 80s really like some of the 80s music, and now you've got people now that are being born that really like 80s music, and you've got that cross-generational enjoyment between, like, you can have a conversation with somebody like 30, 40 years that was born before you, and have that same flair and passion for something.
That's memetics. That's the idea of memetics.
Yeah.
It's a common level of understanding that can be like applied to a number of certain situations and circumstances, but is a constant throughout them. And it's like we pass on that kind of thing within our own relationships, within like descendants and stuff from our parents, from their parents, you know. And yeah, I think that's important because that is a common level of understanding.
That's cool.
We've been talking for a while. Should we attempt to, I guess, contextualize some of the things we've said into ways of
Like
representing loneliness? I guess like one of the things we've mentioned pretty recently was just now sharing, I guess. So if we were to slap it onto a game, it'd be like your character has or even just letting the player say, what does your character like of these options, and regardless of the option, whichever character you come encounter in contact with later on could like completely just have an opinion that disregards your feelings and your attempts to share, because I feel like rejection would be a good way to produce, or would be a way to produce loneliness, because I think in the text here as well there is a thing, if I can find it, but anyway, I don't see it at the moment because I need to look through this and I can't do that whilst talking. But yeah, rejection produces like loneliness, and
I think it's very apparent loneliness, because a rejection is something that is, well, it's funny enough, it's like the concept of what we're talking about, of like when you cultivate and put feeling and thoughts into something that isn't reciprocated, you feel like your own worth in that thing is devalued and is not important, and thus you should feel bad for feeling like that. Yeah. And that's a natural, innate human emotion, because we do it subconsciously. Even when we understand that that's not how it actually is, even if it's like things that just aren't, like reciprocation it's an interesting concept, but it's just because somebody else doesn't feel the same way as you do doesn't mean that yours is devalued, but that's often how we feel.
Well, it's like when you say a joke and someone else doesn't laugh at it, and the feeling you get from that of like complete disappointment, maybe in yourself, like probably in yourself, and you know, it's like that wasn't good. Even if it was good for you, it wasn't good in context because you said it for other people, and other people did not like it. You know.
Yeah. Fuck! I forgot my sentence.
Sorry.
I mean, you didn't do anything. It was mostly based off of... So, actually, it's based off what George was saying. So you say that it doesn't devalue your idea, but it feels like it does when someone doesn't, like, take care of your feelings towards something to the same extent, to such an extreme extent that it's so different, and I guess there's a lack of sensitivity to it. It makes it almost have less value, is how it feels.
I think there's a part
So-
in that, especially when it's people that you care about.
So, so would you say that to take care of someone, it's not always about actually even... You can take care of someone by never even talking to them or doing anything for them, but doing things for the things that they like taking care of what they care about is taking care of who that person is. Because if that person is so closely tied with what they like, then taking care of, let's say this person like their Rubik's Cube or whatever, anything, this thing, making sure you've taken good care of it means this person feels good about it because they have so much value in that and they consider that part of them.
I think there is a part of that. I think that's also an interesting thing about how we form relationships. I think the way that we form friends is not only by caring about each other because of intrinsically who they are, but we care about their ideals and what they like and what they want. It's like, I care about the things that Dean likes.
Cheers, George.
You're welcome, Mr. Rands. No, but like, it's the point of like, you take on a commitment in the sense of like, because you share something in that, and more than just I like you because of who you or what you are. Like, I think that's the thing, maybe a difference between family and friends. Like, you can like your family because of who they are to you, but like, I know that my parents don't understand anything about games, so thus they cannot care about anything to do with games because they don't understand it and they have no innate desire to. Thus, they care about me, but not the things necessarily that I care about, or they care about them because I care about them.
Well, that's the thing, because like my mum will come up and sit in my room every once in a while and like just like see, oh, we're going to play a game?
Yeah.
Fair enough. And just watch me play it, hear me talk about it. Probably most, like, she seems genuinely interested, but it's probably mostly out of a general interest in me as her son.
That's absolutely fun. That's how it should be, because the thing is that you're unless you meet people or you go to a place like university where we're all studying the same thing, we're all interested in the same things, the chance of you actually meeting somebody or being born into a family where you genuinely care about the same things is slim, because that's not how human beings work. So we form different types of connections that way.
Think about other courses as well. Like, on a games course in which you're working in a studio and are forced to work together, like, you know, we're going to have connections as an interest in, like, games, even if it's only certain games. There will be an interest in the general field. But, like, you know, being a creative studio working together, we're going to have shared experiences, full stop. People who are in other unis doing other courses, more academic things, in quotation marks, like, they're going to be more distant. Even in, like, you know, we've said about how graphics, that it's less of a close community, like, generally.
Yeah.
But, like, that's, like, way closer than, you know, someone studying, I don't know, like,
history,
English or history, They're going to go to a lecture hall with, like, hundreds of other students, and they're going to leave it, and they're going to go back to their house, and they're going to do some studying, and that's how it's going to be. They might have
something else that they like.
Yeah, and it's like, you know, like, people have friends in, like, other unis and stuff, but, like, in the case of a lot of my friends, when I talk to them, they seem to have formed closer relationships with housemates and stuff like that than they did with actual course mates, because they don't, like...
It's a different way of life. I think the way of life that we have is very much more a studio culture, and that's what we've been attracted to, because it's that idea of, like, more inclusive. It's more like more of an experience in which is shared by similar people.
How's that for the course booklet perspective?
There you go.
There you go.
Bang, bang. But oh fuck.
Please don't. Yeah.
This is getting deleted.
Okay. No, I forgot what I had to say.
Oh, sorry.
We were just rambling for too long.
Yeah.
Alright, should we quickly go over, like, your Discord notes? See if
What is anything else?
Yeah, okay, so multiplayer, we've kind of discussed that already, the idea of how people can communicate to each other via online. We went over the Rust thing. I mean, a lot of this we can chat about another time.
Yeah, well, I think we've covered pretty much all of this. Like,
I mean, we didn't talk
apart
about
from
scale
the-
and setting.
well, because you said about the size of a Minecraft map. Like, because I think the thing is with scale and setting is that it's only when it's, as like I put down in the notes, it's only really when it's contextualized as there should be people here. Because, you
Yeah.
guys
I think we
said,
spoke
a
about
desert.
journey. We
you know.
spoke about journey
Yeah.
in the sense of like you don't expect to find people in the desert because it's a desert and it's a naturally or innately desolate location
Yeah.
anyway. Whereas like an empty city, you would expect to find.
Because, like, you know, Bernie, you said you didn't feel lonely because it was a desert, right? But I said I felt lonely when another player was running away from me and I was going to lose them and I couldn't contact them and couldn't stop them from going and was left on my own afterwards because I had that person before and then they were gone.
There's also the element of like you don't know what you have until you lose it in that
Yeah.
sense of people. Like we take people for granted and we take shared interaction for granted until we no longer have the ability to do that or we see it dwindling away and then we start to miss it because
Yeah.
we've become so reliant on it. Which actually goes back all the way to the sense of we are forced into a social environment where
Yeah.
we are naturally inclined to talk to each other and interact, and when we don't have that we steadily start to sort of spiral.
It's even like a regret at like when relatives have passed away and you haven't said certain things to them.
We did spend enough time with them.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like you feel that inherent loss. Well, at least I do. And like, even though at the time you weren't doing anything about it, the fact that it's gone and that you feel that emptiness now contextualizes it as something that you missed out on.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know.
So there's a small paragraph here you've written, and
Was it about the chat we had when Vinny was there?
no, we could bring it up though. But for the moment, I'm talking about the Dark Souls 3's
Yeah.
community having several participants.
Okay.
But if you go and look at the first one, there's a lack of.
Yeah, so that was at launch when Dark Souls 3 came out, and everyone was having the shared experience of trying to figure things out because the games are generally like they rely a lot on the community for figuring out like how things work.
It's difficult to navigate.
Yeah, and like things aren't described in very concrete terms a lot of the time. It's like vagaries, or you have to figure it out yourself, or you have to. A lot of it is built on community, like helping each other, leaving messages on the ground, leaving bloodstains to say this is a danger zone. And when, like in Dark Souls 3, you could see there were a lot of people to summon, like for certain areas, trying to help each other. There were a lot of messages trying to leave advice, or even just joking together. And there were a lot of bloodstains around certain areas to say this is a danger zone. You should feel danger here because
don't be here.
other people have felt danger here.
Yeah.
You know, but then at the time, if you wanted to play Dark Souls 1, all the players have moved to Dark Souls 3 because they were trying to figure things out. And Dark Souls 1 was a wasteland in comparison. There weren't any messages on the ground. There were a few bloodstains. You know, like there were a couple of messages maybe.
Well, they've been there for such a long time that maybe, I don't know, it just feels like they're not there anymore.
Yeah, or like they're so far away that there's a disconnect between yourself and them. It doesn't feel like people are sharing the experiences with you. It feels like people had those experiences and now you're having them, I guess. Like
Afterward.
Yeah. And
that's
it's not togetherness.
I think the thing we liked about Dark Souls was that was almost the entire point of part of Dark Souls 1. And
it's
even
like
so
how
much.
temporary everything is.
It's how the fact is that no matter what you do and where you go, the world will end, and it's the sort of the transition from that to another state in which nothing exists.
And then it also helps the damn concept of cycles.
Yeah, well, I mean, the whole game is set following a path of people that have trod it thousands of years ago. I mean, you are following the lords who are no longer alive because they've already given their soul for the greater good. Thus, the people that you meet in the game are just hollow fragments of the persons they once were, and all you have is little kind of fragments and bits and pieces and maybe characters that were around in that time.
And the main person, of course, trying to cling to what's still there, even though he knows he should let go, and
Exactly.
you're showing him that.
So essentially, it's a game about being lonely because nobody is in the state that they once were, and you're doing what is essentially like a victory run around the entire map.
So just like out of interest, do you guys feel less lonely knowing that other people, when you guys play Dark Souls,
Yeah.
do you feel less lonely when you see that someone else's ghost has already been through this thing
Well,
you've
'cause-
just gone through or are about to experience?
It has
When it's a ghost,
two sides to it, I think.
yeah, sorry. When it's another player, because when you see like a translucent, like kind of whitish ghost running through the air, that means someone's just been there and the server's refreshed and is just letting you know someone's there. That's like, I'm here, someone's here, we're having a shared
Oh, it's at the
experience.
same time.
Yeah, like when you're sat at a bonfire and there's another ghost form sat at the bonfire. It's
In that
like
case.
someone else is here with me.
Alright, in that case, do you ever feel the need to stay at the fire, even though you'll never be able to interact, but you can see each other at the fire?
Yeah, I've just sat there and stared at the person who's like on the opposite end of the fire to me because like I'm like, this is another person.
Was that more interesting than... Was that like more important to you than the objective the game was giving you to...
The game doesn't give you an objective in a lot of cases.
It gives you very distant objectives of, here, you should try to do that, and that means going through here and
I
here and
see.
here.
It's very much an experience by experience game, which is I think one of the reasons why I really like it.
Yeah.
It's not like get to here. There's no map. There's no like visual. It's very much like a...
In fact, at the start of the game, they say, "Oh yeah, you need to because of the curse of the undead, you've been cursed, and people are trying to solve the curse of the undead. I hear that you need to ring the two bells of awakening. One's up there, one's down below, and that's what you know. Like, you don't know what's going on.
You don't have a visual. You don't know what's ahead of you.
So without other players to rely on to give you like some kind of pointer, you're having to figure a lot of things out yourself.
In that case... Well, the figuring anything out, does being with company become more important than doing anything at all? Like, does that make it so that you don't want an objective because do you find contentment, I guess if that's the word, to stay around the fire with others?
Yeah, well, like to see someone else is like, you know.
How did you leave? I'm interested in how you left them, or if they left you.
They left me. So
they just fade away.
The bonfire.
Oh, I see.
The bonfire is where you level up, and it's later on. It's where you can fast travel from as well. But it's where you go to refresh to replenish your Estus, which is your healing item, and to level up. So if someone has sat there, they've sat there as I've either achieved my goal, I've got to a safe spot, or I need to like improve myself, and then I'm going away. So you often see someone sits down and then like sits there for a second and then gets up and fades away.
Oh, so it's not actually that they left, it's that the bonfire has a specific time it's able to show them?
You can sit... Well, it does have a specific time that it's able to show them. Sometimes they're sat there and like it fades them in and they're already sat there.
You can sit there
and then
for
it
hours.
fades away.
You can sit there for hours and see hundreds of people.
And it'd be so cool to have a mod to like keep the person there as an experiment, to allow a live feed of the person being there.
You can't have a live feed because it's just when the server tick updates and it goes, someone has been here, and it's recorded that they've been.
I'm just saying, I guess a small multiplayer section where people are able to remain as long as they like, just to see how long it takes people to leave. Like,
okay,
I would think it'd be cool to see, like, because the game is like a solo game. It's like not multiplayer.
It's
there is
multiplayer.
a multiplayer element, but it's like it's inherently a
seamless
single
thing.
player experience that uses multiplayers to add something to it.
It uses, in fact, it's more about how player interaction affects people in a single player experience, I'd say. Because it is like, will you help other players? Will you try to screw other players over? How will you react to being screwed over by other players or to being helped by other players? Will you try to help them, like, in order to benefit, or will you just, spend your days circling around the same area helping new players get through it.
Some players do that. Some players literally log on, they go to the Undead Burg, which is almost the beginning part of the game where players are still learning, and they'll just help new players learn how to beat the bosses, how to get the gear, where to go.
Maybe drop them something on the floor to give them a hand.
You know, there's that whole, like...
you can drop stuff?
You can drop stuff.
That's cool.
Yeah.
But it becomes this whole, like, people almost invent their own experiences and just becoming that kind of phantom ghost that brings help or misfortune.
It's true. But you're a complete stranger, that's the thing. Like,
and you can't talk to them.
You have gestures to interact, you can drop things on the floor, but that's it. So, like, while I was playing Dark Souls 2, I went back to it at some point. This was maybe a year and a half ago or something. And there's an area where for some reason, you have to set this windmill on fire. And there's no reason, there's nothing that tells you to. But there was this guy that was clearly new to the game, and I put my summon sign down to like help people to light this thing, because I was like, someone is gonna not know. So I helped this guy go through the entire thing, and then like got to where the windmill is, and he tried to keep going, and I was like, I kept just going like that, and then pointing at the windmill, and he was like, what? And he went up to it, and then turned to me, and then tried continuing again, and I like went like that, and then drop a flame butterfly on the floor, which is it makes you set your torch on fire, and then use mine, and just started going up to the windmill, and then walking to him, and then pointed at the windmill, which put out mine.
You can't set it on fire for them.
No. And he did it, and then like spun in circles to say cheers, 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 like that. And then like we beat the boss, we did it, and he thanked me, and that was it. That's all the experience. All the experience you will have with that person, done.
And you'll never meet them again. The chances are.
The chances are super slim.
Occasionally you can, and that is like the best thing ever. Like when you have like somebody who's got like a really iconic face or nose, and then like you're like, because my character always has like a Pinocchio nose and pigtails, so like my characters are always really obvious. But like there'll be a time where like you might meet somebody at the beginning of the game, and it turns out that you're both going through the game, and you might meet them on later on as well, and it's like, I know you, you've helped me before. And that's something really special.
So the reason I pointed that out was just because a few people have told me in the past how friends moving away from the system that they play games on has made it so that they themselves also move away from the whatever they use to play games in order to join friends again in this new whatever, because there was a friend who wanted to do it just alone, and then others followed. But I feel like it's interesting how there might be something in how consoles or like just whatever you used to play is left behind, even though you may enjoy it, for the sake of following, I guess, the group you enjoy spending your time playing games with. I feel like there's something. It's just this desired social interaction thing, which can lack, if not met, is cool. It's like it's interesting. It's kind of sad in that it doesn't really matter what you are doing because other people aren't doing it too, and so. Oh well, in this case, the console thing. It's not even doing. It's doing the exact same thing, but somewhere else. But because it's you're not included in the exact same of like I don't know, could play the same game on a different console.
This is a thing. Like, Fred was gonna get a PS4, and I was going, "Oh yeah, get this game, get that game, get that game," and he was like, "Okay." And then he went, "My friend's got an Xbox One," and I was like, "Your one friend who you also play on PC with has an Xbox One, and therefore you want to get that instead of a PS4 to play these games, not because of the games you want to play, but because you want to play with him, even though you play with him on PC." And he got an Xbox One, and then didn't play with the friend, and it was like because he was playing with him on PC anyway, and I was like, you actively chose against having these experiences which we could have had as a here, play this game, play that game, you know, like I'll lend you games, you can play them, you can play with us or something at some point.
I mean, I bought an Xbox One to play with friends.
Yeah, like it was something I was going to do. Like it's something we'd all planned on doing in secondary school. But like when it's actively going like just to play with this one person, I will spend hundreds of pounds on a thing that I don't actually want. Just to play with this person. It's like that says something, you know. People are important, and yeah, I found that interesting because I didn't get an Xbox One when we were all planning on doing it. People just seemed to drop out. I became less interested in the idea for a number of reasons, mostly because of how Microsoft was handling it. But then I had people over my house to play the Wii U anyway. The Wii U became the centre of, like, as a hub for my friends to come over and play Smash together.
Yeah.
Like, that was an extremely beneficial social experience to get the Wii U so we could all be in the same room playing together for, like, extended periods of time, a bunch. Like, each, Tuesday lunchtime, Tea Party Tuesday of Hype in Year 13. Hey, come to my house, I'll make tea for you, we can play Smash together. Like, and that was a thing. I don't drink tea, but, like, it was a dumb experience and it was cool and I loved it. But yeah, like that kind of, I will get a thing just so that it can be experienced with friends. Like, if I brought controllers over to someone's house, preparing to play a game, and then like it didn't happen, like fine, but there'd be some kind of like internal disappointment there at the experience that I planned on providing these people to have with these people didn't happen. You know, there's going to be a kind of like loss there.
I mean, I feel like if it is the case that people will follow people across different platforms in order to be in the same one as them, I feel like there's something a bit frightening, if this is to be the case, about any company which, I guess, builds any new, I guess, platform to play on. Because
yeah, that's why I don't
because you can capitalize on this sense of, I guess, loss if you're able to get at least a few people to move over to a different console. Because once that first person moves alone, if there are people who are willing to follow, that just lets you keep selling and making new, like, doesn't even matter. You can make a tiny bit better, but continuously make money on it.
That's why they pour so much money into console exclusives. Like, you don't make a massive profit on a game like God of War 4 or Bloodborne. Like, they get massively, like, great critical reviews. Like, Spider-Man as well, they must have poured, like, millions and millions into that game. Like, I know it's sold amazingly, but they didn't know it was going to sell that well. But to have the one, like, hey, come over here, that hook, to go get the people who are going to recommend it to their friends and go, come and join me over here. Like, those are probably bad examples because they're quite late in the life cycle. But, like, you know, you had it last gen as well. You had, like, Oblivion on the Xbox 360 and, like, stuff like that, where it's like, hey, come over here with the promise of Halo 3 coming out later. And it's like, we can play this now. This is a shared experience where I can go, oh, this is cool. And then later on, we can actually play together in this thing. And it's like, you know.
Wait, what do you mean we can later on play in this thing?
Oh, because Halo 3 came out later than Oblivion did.
Oh, okay.
No, but in fact, Crackdown's a great example, because Crackdown was a mostly single-player game with a multiplayer component, but it also came with the beta access for Halo 3. And people early, like, in the 360's life cycle, would play Crackdown, would go, this is a fun, dumb thing. It comes with the Halo 3 beta. You should get this. We can play Halo 3 together. And that's like, you know, it's a thing.
Cool. Okay. Let's see what else. let's see what else we have.
I mean, we're at an hour and 40 minutes now,
Yeah.
so we can potentially wrap it up.
Or go for another hour 40 minutes.
That's true.
Okay. So, why did we mention here, in one of the last paragraphs, scale and setting contribute to a feeling of loneliness in a digital environment? Because the reason we said that was because the expectation of a social interaction reminds you there is meant to be a social thing happening in which it is not being, in which it's not happening. But why scale?
Because it came
It
from
can
the
contribute.
It's like
You said about Minecraft.
but yeah, like it's even more like that. Like the forest, like before you've had a chance to fully explore the game, like playing it on your own on the forest is like so daunting because everything feels so massive, and you have nobody to experience this with, and you have nobody to explore with, and thus I think the natural human like a default would be to act on defensive, which would be to not necessarily explore because you feel on your own.
I wouldn't say so. I reckon the context of like how you come to be in that situation does make it that way. I don't think it is that way just because you are surviving alone and it's massive. Because like the context was you were with people, everyone suddenly died. You would have had people if experiencing this, but they all died in the crash.
No, because I think with the forest, like a lot of people ignore like the events of the first cutscene. Like that isn't the game's experience. That's the first cutscene's experience. The game experience is being a survivor of a plane crash in a forest. Like that is, you are alone, but it's a multiplayer game, and they will see it as I am one of the survivors of this plane crash with my friends. A lot of people got it to play with friends. I didn't originally. I got it as a single player.
I didn't. When I bought it, I don't think there was multiplayer.
Same here, yeah. I got it, and I was like, yeah, you know, I enjoy this as a survival horror experience.
Yeah, it was really cool.
It was cool. But, yeah, no, because I put it there as, like, the context is what makes, like, the expectation of other people is what makes the loneliness happen. But when you are lonely, or when you are alone, I guess, the scale of something can make it feel like you don't have bearings. You're lost in this like
and it's a
massive
hard game
place.
to navigate, especially when it's dark because everything looks the same because it's all forest or it's all like plains. It's like when you don't have waymarkers, you don't have friends, you don't have people to like pinpoint and orientate yourself around. It becomes a very like I have no idea where I am.
Because it's not weird, like because I'll often follow where someone else is going, even if they're following where I'm going. We're just following each other. We're going along to this place wherever we're going. We're doing it together. Like if you don't have someone else to be the one bearing you've got, it's like what. I'm going to say that mountain's a bearing, I guess. I can follow that mountain. But, like, what does that mean? Where am I? I'm alone. You know, you don't have another person to rely on. You're, like, because the original thing was Minecraft was the original example that George said was when he was alone in a Minecraft server, like, and, you know, you see the size of it. Like when you do a Minecraft server alone, I mean, you see the size of the world and you're such a small part of it that like, and when you're on your own you feel like, I guess, a vulnerability or a complete like sense of being lost in this environment because of how big it is, because of how the amount of places you can go but you're not going with someone else.
What means you technically it's almost a point of like, are you going anywhere at all? Because if you don't have anything to experience with anybody else with, does it really matter?
Yeah, I know what you mean, because like, we've not mentioned it yet, but I'd said when I had played Minecraft by myself, I couldn't find a reason to do anything after several hours of being in there. I would wonder why I was surviving the night and surviving so many dangers, only to do the same thing over and over again when I'm doing it for nothing and like for no one.
Well, that's it. But like, it's even a case of like, if you go on a Minecraft server with people that you don't know and you haven't met, just the knowledge that they are out there doing their own thing somewhere means that you have not necessarily a purpose, but an existence that is shared with other people. Because you are sharing
Yeah.
a world in which other people exist in and are thinking and acknowledge that you also exist.
I
I
guess.
mean, sorry.
Go on.
I was just gonna ask, or really hypothesize whether it was anything similar to religion, where it's like it's just the presence of someone makes it so that it is bearable.
What, like a deity, you mean? Or-
Sure, like just the idea of if you believe there to be someone there, because as George just said, you might not be working together, but you do share the world, and you know each other are in it, but you might not talk and you might not interact or be into doing anything together, but they are there, and that makes it good. And so the idea that there's someone there that you may never see them because you have nothing you want to do with them makes it okay.
That's the thing, because like I looked into it for companionship, of course, but like with religion, it throws me, because it is absolutely a thing where people see like companionship in a deity or something, but it like kind of it confuses me because that's not a two-way relationship.
No.
Like not in a healthy sense, at least, because you know, the deity is more powerful than you, is responding to more than you, and doesn't like seek reliance on you the way that you seek reliance on them. You know, if you're seeing, like, they're not going to compromise for your sake.
No.
You're compromising for theirs, and it isn't a healthy relationship.
But they're giving you something in return, is the belief, isn't it? The fact that they're probably looking over you constantly, though you can't see them. They are making sure you're okay, like the guardian angel type idea.
An existence that accepts you in such.
So they are
as
providing
long as you
with
accept
that.
it.
Yeah.
But it's providing in a way that isn't human. It isn't like I guess it's more like, I don't know, primal. I guess it's we will look after you, not in social means, but in like well-being and in making sure, you know, afterlife and stuff. Making sure things are cool for you as long as you're doing the right thing. But like, and apparently making your life better and all that, even though disease exists and all that stuff. But you know, like, my beliefs aside, it isn't a human, like, it isn't feeling and sharing experiences in feeling. It's like reliance on something rather than, it doesn't feel like someone.
It's finding a rock, I think. It's finding something that you can hang on to.
Yeah.
Use to cope with whatever's going on.
And used to guide you, I guess.
That's why a lot of people turn to religion when they're going through very difficult times.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people don't have another person to be able to rely on, so a natural response is to find something to rely on, which is why religion probably took that place.
Absolutely.
Even if gods aren't necessarily, you know, you can't get a human experience from this idea of gods. I mean, humans do, you know, create gods that are very human-like in, you know, the way that they portray them. They make gods seem human in many ways. Like, you know, humans are supposed to be, you know, made with the vision
Image.
of, within the image of God in, you know, Christianity. In Greek mythology, you'll hear of all the gods, and they all have very human traits, very human flaws.
Yeah, that's the thing.
All that sort of thing. I looked into this when I did the
Same with Norse
and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's all about, you know, we seek comfort in the familiarity of, you know, seeing that the world is governed by beings that aren't that dissimilar from us, and maybe that way their choices are fair to a certain extent, because they might be choices that we might have made ourselves.
Or that they just feel compassion.
Yeah, and this idea of you know, having a god that empathizes with your pain, and I mean, you can believe that, is the thing. It doesn't matter if it's necessarily, I can feel the empathy of the god.
Yeah.
Because it's all about how you interpret your life. Like, I don't know, you might be having a particularly shitty day. You might pray and then it becomes really sunny later on in the day and you go for a walk and you feel a lot better and you're like, well, that's the gods being nice to me. Yeah. And it's like, no, not necessarily. Who knows? Because no one knows if there's a god or whatever.
Of course.
But of course, you can choose to believe that, and that's a form of comfort, I suppose.
I mean, just to make it clear so that we're not, like, thinking that we can turn to religion as, like, another form of, I guess the way we were describing it was comfort from religion as a replacement for what did you say, George? Loss?
Possibly.
You said people usually turn to religion after someone dies.
You said difficult circumstances, I think.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, it's not uncommon to hear of that.
Yeah.
But there is a thing here in Ella's research that suggests that something that there can at times be no replacement for the thing that you had. It says here specifically after a divorce or even someone's death, the attachment you had formed with these people can be so greatly broken, and the loneliness can be so badly experienced that it becomes impossible to form a new tie with anyone. So I feel like that's important to say, just because we've been talking about, how we can find new things and ways of coping, and sometimes people are incapable and they're completely destroyed, and their experiences will never amount to what should have been a human experience.
Like you run over a chicken and you find yourself unable to love.
You're unable to love again. No, I feel like even the experiences of loss that it's talking about there, I don't think it necessarily means that person will never be able to.
No, that is what they're saying. No,
it's
I mean, not always, but these are some people.
Yeah, impossible currently. And I suppose in many cases, I guess in some cases, people will, I don't know, overcome that at least slightly. I don't think you can ever overcome it completely, don't get me wrong. But, of course, on the flip side, there will be some people who don't. But all I'm saying is that there will be people who are able to. It's not like it's saying it's impossible.
I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm saying that everyone else was mentioning the possibility. I was just saying, like, if you want me to quote, it says, on the other hand, the loss experience can be so powerful that it actually becomes impossible to form new ties.
Yeah, that's... Because I'm assuming that goes hand in hand just with the depression that will come from an event like that. Like, you'll start to be incapable of doing a lot of things, including forming connections anymore. Yeah.
Human capacity, that going mad. This is interesting, though a bit, like, uncomfortable. It's on page 34. And it's like the opener to, like, I guess that section of the book, where it's like, as long as you're lonely, you can't ever go mad if there is anything to, I guess, anything that's there to, like, think about that is people. Although, like, it doesn't even matter what it is, but an acknowledgement or the realization that there is anything to react or to think about, like, saves you from, I guess, going insane. Which is a bit like... I don't know. I feel like it's more preferable to go insane than to remain sane and really sad. But I don't know. I feel like that's an interesting little snippet.
Well, how would you define, like, sane?
I don't know. They say no human
it says
being.
mad, and that's quite subjective.
Yeah. It's just
I think
an
maybe it's just
interesting
a saying
Yeah.
in the sense of like it's difficult to say as in the same state that you are without degenerating, I suppose.
Yeah.
Is the point it's trying to make is that like we grow and learn from human contact, and without it we don't advance. I think there's that. I don't know. That could be my terrible interpretation of it, but that's how I'd see it. In the sense of like, we don't descend as our concepts don't become less.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's I assume that's where it's going with it, but I mean, that's
the
an
rest isn't
entirely
highlighted. I have to read the rest of it. What do you mean here, Dean? The effect of a lack of common understanding on loneliness, as if there's a language barrier or inability to decipher others.
you spoke about the time that you ran into the Russian kid. Was that you?
Yeah, there was a person in Rust who like ran past me and was speaking, I think, Russian, and I couldn't like speak to them, and that was the only interaction we had of me being incapable of communicating with someone, and then they were gone. But yeah, no, because this was the conversation we had with Venny. This was where it's just an idea of how like a lack of a common understanding. So like, you know, we don't have the same context, the same beliefs, or like we don't speak the same language. We don't have the same vocabulary, either whether that's like verbal or even mental. Like we don't think the same way. How that can make you feel a complete disconnect from someone and completely lonely in that you are the only one who thinks this way, who, you know, talks this way, feels this way. That's the idea. But then you were saying about how you could represent that with, like, imagine you could only see, like, text boxes, or, like, you couldn't connect that to a face or something that wasn't a person saying it. Or, like,
I was just wondering whether, we'd have to look it up, whether hearing someone makes you feel closer to them than if you knew exactly what they were going to say and they communicated to you in the exact same way anyway through text. Like if seeing it happen and feeling and hearing it happen has a difference.
Well, because there is a thing. If we're looking at someone while we're speaking to them, if they smile, that I've read it during the communication thing that I was looking into, but language, in fact, that's what I was looking at. When someone smiles, the muscles that cause us to smile actually react in our own faces. It's a shared human emotion, like physically, in that even if you're not yourself literally smiling, it will activate those muscles. They will like react slightly to someone else smiling, as long as you feel empathy for that person.
I see.
Of course.
So
Back in a minute.
Sure.
So this empathy, are you saying that the muscles react to respond in the same way? Or are you saying they prepare themselves to react like as a response?
Well,
And not as a share the same, I guess, feeling through the face.
no. So this is a sharing thing. It's like
So it's the same, it's reciprocating the same thing.
exactly.
So it won't activate I'm mad now face.
No. Yeah, it's about going like seeing happiness in someone and therefore feeling happy from them, and then the muscles activating will tell your brain to feel happier.
There is a thing actually that I have seen before. You can force yourself to be happy by smiling, which I feel like can be sad. I'm pretty sure I read it. No, actually, I think I read it in one of the books we were told to read over the summer in first year.
They've been thinking fast and slow.
Yeah, it was that. Where they're like, some people, you can make a person happier by just making them hold a pencil in their mouth. so that
Yeah.
they're always
Smiling.
in that position.
Yeah.
And that changes the
Because that
how
goes
they are.
hand in hand with the thing of seeing another person smile makes your facial muscles like try to smile, because then while they're trying to smile you'll feel happier, apparently at least. And yeah, so if you don't have facial like expressions to reflect emotion when someone's saying something, you won't have that inherent emotional connection necessarily to what they're saying or how they're saying it or how they feel while they're saying it or how you should feel. But yeah, that's it really.
But yeah, anyway, just the back to the text versus like audio thing to produce, I guess, empathy or a lack of from not having the ability to connect it properly. Other contexts we had thought could possibly also be used to attempt to create the same effect without having such a specific way of being said would be through a conversation we had with Venny. She said that the characters could talk through gibberish, to which you said a few games like Zelda where people don't quite...
So
you see the text box and
you
stuff.
got Animal Crossing like and you've got
you could do that
on the
more
tail
often.
you said, which is like
What is it? Hollow Knight uses that as well.
yeah, Hollow Knight also has that. They go like
Yeah, there's a few games that do it, like...
you guys should play that if you haven't.
it's a
already.
very
It's
good
really
game. It's also beautiful.
Yeah, several games do it. I don't know why. I think probably sometimes because they don't have the budget for it, like Sonic 06. I know every character. But yeah.
I thought you meant they don't have the budget for it like Sonic 06 did. That's what I thought you meant for a second.
Yeah, it's true. Sonic
This
06.
pinnacle of game design and development, Sonic 06.
Nothing
Yeah.
gets higher than that now, but yeah, you have a good point. I think maybe some of them use it to communicate other things, and audio prompts are great, and audio in general is great at describing the nuances of a situation.
Absolutely.
I think it's almost essential to have that experience explained through audio as well as visual. So
You've mentioned to me, Dean, before.
Sure.
And I have the same thing, where if we're misunderstood to such a degree that it's not like the way that we ourselves believe to be, it's upsetting. It makes me angry anyway that people would think something so drastically unlike what I believe me to be, and it's just why was I saying that? I had an actual point and I forgot. I think it's just this thing I'm reading here. It's there's the idea of being misunderstood is a bit of a turn off from anything you're doing with that person, and it makes me upset with them, and it the fact that I had to explain something I felt was obvious made me feel a bit alone and a bit isolated it almost felt like an attack anyway. But we thought we could represent this idea where we're not understood correctly through the idea, because we're thinking about gibberish, or I thought gibberish would be super annoying to listen to, but the frustration of almost getting there, the frustration of not being anywhere on the same idea as this person, so you both are communicating through the same thing, could be represented through the gibberish alongside words throughout the gibberish that are things you can understand. So if characters can communicate, they'll be saying a bunch of gibberish, and then suddenly there are words you recognize where right there we can
Yeah.
like connect.
So the idea that you would be able to connect with someone, but there seems to be a massive barrier in that the rest of what they're saying means absolutely nothing to you.
Yeah.
Like the disconnect and the disappointment comes from
that can be obviously told literally by just having sentences and like things like geology someone might not care about. Not that's uninteresting, obviously. But
I care about geology.
No rocks for you.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's can be represented in that way, and then over time, I don't know, say there's several characters you get to speak to in like a game context, and some of them you'll get more than others, and you'll enjoy that experience more than others, but you'll completely disregard the ones that aren't even using anything related to the way you would use your own language to communicate. And yeah, I feel like that's an interesting way to show relationships anyway. And it's I mean, it might not be so smart in that it's like you can't even get opposing views because you'll only ever see the things you're capable of seeing because you understand the idea. But like, I don't know, super simplified, this could be interesting to occasionally put like, I don't know, words that connect a sentence, but the sentence isn't there with the opinion because it's gibberish, and then a few keywords maybe.
Definitely an interesting idea. Yeah. But yeah, I guess with that, it's been a couple of hours, right?
It has been.
We should probably wrap up. But yeah, I guess next time we'll probably get together and discuss different things, I guess.
Yeah, I guess.
I
mean, I just had a thought that maybe if we are looking at like doing our own studies, because I know we said it'd be cool to like play games in Solitude and see how it makes us feel.
It's true.
Even when it's like multiplayer experiences.
With like no, like a promise of not sharing them at all.
So maybe getting together and actually discussing how that makes you feel.
Yeah.
The things that you did, the things that you thought. Maybe that would be an interesting thing or a topic to see how we're looking at. Maybe even specific games that try and utilise that kind of feeling. Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe old games that aren't played anymore. Maybe, I don't know.
That could be interesting. Yeah.
Not even games. Maybe even books or different types of media, or even just experiences, places that aren't visited anymore.
You know, we should read Henry Darger's book.
I heard he wrote a book that has a lot of pictures and a lot of pages.
We should start looking at his stuff. 15,000 pages.
Well, how does it feel to be the one person who's read through the entire thing?
I mean, if we divvy that up between four of us, then like it's only a couple of thousand.
Yeah, it's only a couple of 100 years.
So, well, yeah. I think we'll call it there.
Cool.
So,
I guess I'll end with a sync test after we've
yeah, I think we're good.
Cool. Okay, 3, 2, 1.